العرعر عند محطة اللقاء وصلت. أنا قادر كل شيء.
That's crazy. You don't see that
nuts.
going on around here usually. Oh. It was real windy on those people a while ago.
It's got a path. Yeah, it's getting bigger. Is it suck? Oh wow. Yeah. It went right through the front of the neighborhood. Oh my gosh, look at it. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Those are our neighbors' houses. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
This whole cul-de-sac is gone. Man, that sun is really showing some stuff. How do you get rays? How do you get corpuscular rays like that? If the sun was so far, coming in with parallel rays.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Yeah, that's their favorite line. Got a lot of people, what difference does it make? You can't figure out what difference it makes? If you can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world have fucking lied to you over and over your whole life, if you can't figure out that someone lying to you is trying to control you, suppressing of information, of knowledge, is control. Deception of information and knowledge is a form of control. So what difference does it make? It makes a big difference, because once they start omitting information or lying about information about where you live, they're doing it to control you. Period.
That these structures are giant tree trunks seems incredible to me. It seems incredible to the geologists too. They don't believe these are giant tree trunks. So initially I set out to collect data to do a debunking video that these giant structures that look like trees are actually trees. This seems really very incredible to me. But when I went to look to see how these were formed, the structure Devil's Tower in particular, they don't know. They have several theories, but they actually don't know how this structure came to be. And it looks so much like a tree trunk that you have to at least pause for a minute and say, is that even possible? And I decided to go for a hike out there and just look around in the foothills. And I did find some interesting rocks that do appear to look like tree bark, and some rocks that even have rings in them. that look like rings from trees. So I thought, well, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting to find something like that. And Devil's Tower has these peculiar structures. They're like cells, square cells that go up and down. And to my surprise, petrified trees also display these exact kind of squarish structures that go up and down in the fossil, in the petrified tree. Now, for these giant structures that look like tree trunks to have actually been tree trunks, they would have had to have been buried at some time and been petrified. And I've heard objections that the mineral composition of these structures, such as Devil Tower, is not exactly the same as what we find in petrified trees. And while I find that refutation to be reasonable, I don't find it entirely convincing, because obviously any kind of fossil, petrified trees or other fossils, are going to take on the mineral content of whatever was in the area at the time they were fossilized. But there was one more thing that really caught my attention, and this is another structure called Devil's Postpile in California. And the geologists believe it was formed by the same process as Devil's Tower in Wyoming. And when I looked at this structure, Devil's Postpile, what I see is what looks like a broken, bent tree stump. You know, when a tree breaks, it kind of flares out and you get the little splinters kind of break out. Well, Devil's Postpile very much looks like that same type of thing. You can see the bend in the rock, like it was bent like a tree. It was soft at one point in time.
I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher and an holy one came down from heaven. He cried aloud and said thus, hew down the tree and cut off his branches, shake off his leaves and scatter his fruit. Let the beasts get away from under it, and the fowls from his branches. Nevertheless, leave the stump of his roots in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field. And let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts in the grass of the earth.
Okay, here we have the scripture from the Dead Sea Scroll version. Okay, now, in the Dead Sea text entitled The Book of Giants, the Nephilim, sons of the fallen angel Shemyaza, named Aya and Oya, experience dream visions in which they visit a world garden and see 200 trees being felled by heavenly angels. Felled means cut down.
Lofty trees were gliding off from their trunks and were in the act of being projected and of sinking into the abyss, sinking into what we call the ocean these days. This blows my mind. This amazes me. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why we don't explore the ocean. Those really deep parts of the ocean, we don't share those with people. I believe that there are all kinds of remnants of an ancient world down at the bottom of the ocean.
One of the strangest places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree it's one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean. It was while filming for Blue Planet. It was in the Gulf of Mexico. And I noticed there's something out in the distance. Couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend in it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off, and as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline. It was insane. I've never seen anything like it.
Coincidentally, a few days after this aired on the television that he had made this discovery, when him and his friend were flying the helicopter, it exploded.
There's a mutual thing to intimacy that people don't understand. If one partner isn't in the same level of intimacy with the other, or in the same approach to intimacy like the other, it's no longer intimacy. What makes it intimacy is that the simple fact that it's mutual. So it's not I just call you, but I answer when you call me. I can sense I should probably spend time with God. You could be chilling on social media, you could be watching a movie, you could be doing anything, you could be with people, and you just sense I should be spending time with God, or I should go home, or I should stay home. There's something inside of you that's speaking to you. What's really happening is God saying, I miss you. I want to spend time with you. I want to talk to you. I'm trying to be with you. And the reality is, I don't think that God is not speaking. I think you just simply haven't been in his presence to hear his voice. And the reality is, you probably have been calling God, but do you answer when God calls you?
I want you to fill in the story of the rest of the beginning of the universe. God, spiritual matter, impact on material matter.
Okay, so 2 questions. All right.
Go ahead.
All right, your question, where did God come from, assumes that you're thinking of the wrong, obviously it displays that you're thinking of the wrong God, because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God. Time, space, and matter is what we call a continuum. All of them have to come into existence at the same instant, because if there were matter but no space, where would you put it? If there were matter and space but no time, when would you put it? You cannot have time, space, or matter independently. They have to come into existence simultaneously. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. So you have time, space, matter, created a trinity of trinities there. Just, time is past, present, future. Space has length, width, height. Matter has solid, liquid, gas. You have a trinity of trinities created instantaneously, and the God who created them has to be outside of them. If he's limited by time, he's not God. The guy who created this computer is not in the computer. He's not running around in there changing the numbers on the screen, okay? The God who created this universe is outside of the universe. He's above it, beyond it, in it, through it. He's unaffected by it. So the concept that a spiritual force cannot have any effect on a material body, well then I guess you'd have to explain to me things like emotions and love and hatred and envy and jealousy and rationality. I mean, if your brain is just a random collection of chemicals that form by chance over billions of years, how on earth can you trust your own reasoning processes and the thoughts that you think? Okay, so your question, where did God come from, is assuming a limited God. And that's your problem. The God that I worship is not limited by time, space, or matter. If I could fit the infinite God in my 3-pound brain, he would not be worth worshiping, that's for certain. So that's the God that I worship. Thank you.
Got stabbed in the heart when I walked in the ER, because I was on the ER but the surgeon had his chest cracked open, and he had his finger in the guy's heart. And they pronounced him dead. He was a young man, maybe 22, 23 years old, drug deal that went bad. He died, and the surgeon was a Christian, Dr. Forster to be exact, said, we're not going to let him go without a fight, so he took him to the OR, took him to surgery, pumped him full of blood, got a pulse, tied the hole in his heart up with a suture, and since I was on the surgery unit, I had to wait till he woke up. After about 4 hours, the guy woke up, and he looked me in the eye, and he grabbed me, and he started crying, sobbing, and he said, I met the devil. And I said, what do you mean you met the devil? He said, I saw you working on me, I was dead, I never prayed, and he could feel, he went straight down into hell. And he said he looked in the eyes of the devil, and he prayed. He said he never prayed before, it was never spiritual, and he said, please God, I'll change my life. And he felt an angel or a hand pull him back up, and that's when he awoke. And it was the most amazing experience because he was legit. I mean, no one makes up something like that. And last I heard, he's completely changed his life. He gave his life to God, and still to this day, the look in his eye when he woke up, the terror. I'm absolutely convinced that he did meet the devil. And once again, I've not followed up on where he's at now, but I heard he's doing really good. And if I can get that information, I'll get it for you.
Okay.